All right, we got the take two, and I think we're good. Mike, are you there? Say something to
This
me.
is two editions of dogging it on the same day.
My man, I can hear you, and your voice never sounded so sweet in my life, Mike. All right, so what I mentioned to you guys, we're just on.
Forgot what
I
we were
want
going
to
to
just,
talk about.
yeah, no kidding, right? I want to just reiterate one more time because this is going to be a whole new, fresh recording, right? So, first of all, we've had a little bit of technical difficulties with some of our guests. Not just what happened right now. This right now was my fault, easy fix. But nevertheless, we've had some audio issues that have been coming up. We appreciate you guys for being patient with us. We love having great guests, and we work our asses off to try to get them at inconvenient times because everyone's doing a million different things. But we all do whatever we can, and we've been working in the background to make sure that we try to at least troubleshoot it as best we can. So everyone who hits the like button and the share button, like I said before, it's always appreciated. It's been a long few days for me, but we're back, Mike, and we got the European Open, and I'm excited. So, buddy, how are you doing, Mike?
Good, good. I'm not getting a lot of work done these days. With these, I know people still complain about, not showing enough tables and table two doesn't have an announcer or whatever, but they have, you know, two matches going on at the same time pretty much all morning and into the afternoon here. I'm not getting much done. I don't know about you.
It's been rough. That's putting it mildly. Getting up at around 3 a.m. like I did this morning to sweat the first match, which was a big match at Mike to start the day.
Yeah.
And then I took a little morning nap, and I'm hoping I don't show my age there by saying that, but I think I am a little bit. Uh, took a nap by the time, let's say, 6 a.m. rolled around. But it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle, Mike. But every time you have these events overseas and and abroad, you kind of have to just roll with it being here in the States. But I tell you what, I'm looking forward to the U.S. Open just that much more after this
Yeah.
event.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is good action. That's why you want to get up early and check it out. Great tournament, great field. Things run pretty smoothly, it looks like. Have enjoyed the heck out of, it's just tons of great matches, some good surprises out there. So yeah, it's going to be the next 2 days is it's gravy time for everybody. So going to be some great matches coming up. There were great matches today.
There was,
Um,
Mike, and they started with a Joshua Filler versus Clenny
yeah,
Kachi. And boy, you want to talk about a back and forth heavyweight matchup. It didn't get much better than that, Mike.
yeah. No, I going to show my age. I did not get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch that, but but it looked like it was back and forth. A real dogfight. From what I understand, Kachi had a couple of opportunities
He
to
did.
shut the door, and as we're learning with every tournament that goes by, if you don't close the door when you have a chance against Josh, you're going to regret it. He's a closer.
Yeah, he is the epitome of that, Mike. When you type in the word closer, his picture ought to go and come up because if you give him an inch, he is liable to go and put you away no matter the deficit. We saw him earlier in this event when he was down to a player who I've never heard of, but evidently they had a little bit of a history together in juniors, who I
Right,
think had him down something like 8-4, and he comes back and wins a
right.
hill battle. Um, Josh is not that guy to be messed around with. Kachi did have a shot to go and put him away, and it would have ended up being, I think, 9-7. He had a chance for a combo.
No, 10-8
You would 10-8. Okay, excuse me,
would have
10-8.
been 10-8. Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Mike, this combo dressed up pretty nice. I don't have a graphic of it here, but for those of you guys who saw it, you know what I'm talking about. It sat pretty good. It was into the side, which you know how tough that can go and be. But it was a shot that you favor Kachi to go and make, in the high percentages anyway. But he went a little bit wide with it. And then, like you said, the rest is history. Josh does what
Yeah.
Josh does. And the way that it laid
Yeah.
afterwards, he had to come with a bank, followed by a tough back cut. So it didn't get any easier, but this is just what he does, Mike. And it's funny. I
Yeah.
remember whenever we had him on saying that I used to think Josh was a bit of a front runner and didn't really, do too well from behind. And every single tournament, I look more and more like a donkey the
Well,
more that we
with
see him.
these great young players like that, a guy who's got the whole package who can put it together. There's going to be parts of his career, maybe at the beginning, where he was, not a good front runner or is a good only a front runner, and they just over experience in time they learn how to win those matches they didn't used to win. So he's getting to that point where, he's never going to be out of a match, and he's going to win way more times than he's going to lose. He's just a phenomenal player. His run out in the last rack against Kachi was no hanger. He had to
No,
really move around the table pretty deftly, pretty delicately. Um, and he just doesn't, if he can see the ball at all, he doesn't miss many pockets. That's for sure.
no, Mike. His execution makes him really intimidating. And I know maybe some other guys who are playing against them may go and say the uh, politically correct thing and say, "Oh no, we're all pool players," or "I'm playing the table," or any of those cliches that we've heard in the past. But Josh ain't that guy. Josh
No,
is a monster, and he's at the top of this mountain when it comes to professional pool, along with the likes of Shane and Albin and Jason. But Jason, it's kind of tough because he maybe hasn't had the successes that Albin and Josh has had lately. But he's still very intimidating because anytime he can go and come with it.
yeah, he's got, just a ton of, um, firepower, obviously. He just needs to get back in that stroke that he had in, 18, 19, when he was really firing on all cylinders. So, but it sets up for a great match tomorrow. Josh against Jason. Jason's going to be up for it, guarantee it. And Jason's one of those guys who's not going to be intimidated by Josh's firepower because he knows he can match it shot for shot. So, what you're saying is right. I think a lot of players go against Josh and think, I have to play pretty much perfect match to beat Josh, and that's putting a lot of pressure on yourself before you hit a ball. But you know that you're not,
He doesn't miss much, Mike. I
yeah,
mean,
you have to really limit your mistakes because he's not gonna make many, and he's gonna punish you for your mistakes. So Josh is just he's really getting into that zone where he is the most dangerous player in every tournament that he's in. So I'm really looking forward to Josh against Jason tomorrow morning. That's going to be great.
there's certain players who will make you go and pay for your mistakes, or when you get in a hole, they can go and put you away as well. There's not many of them, Mike, but there's a
Yeah,
few. Jason's one of them. I don't think he can fade an 8-4 hole, or I don't think he can go and like Josh did with Oscar, because I think Oscar had a lot of chances in that matchup to go and put Josh in a bit of a hole, but he left a couple of hangers up.
yeah,
That should have been put away. If he does the same thing with Jason and doesn't have the successes that he had on the break, then it's gonna be a lot trickier than what it's been up until this point for Josh.
right.
But yeah, you definitely got to give him credit, Mike. Whatever the circumstance or situation is, if you give him an opportunity, he's gonna go and punish you. So you better put
Yeah,
him away before he puts you away.
yeah,
So, but that matchup, it really doesn't get much sweeter than that, Mike. Aside from maybe a Shane versus Josh kind of final, this matchup in the morning between Josh and Jason is really going to be something to be looking out for.
yeah, yeah. It's gonna be terrific. Looking forward to tomorrow. A lot of interesting stories tomorrow. I mean, there were a lot of interesting stories that came out of today.
But,
From
but, but before we jump in though, Mike, what's been your take on how the event's been overall, the break? What are your thoughts
I,
on
you
it?
know what from what I've heard, players comment on players who've gotten knocked out, players who are still in, whatever. I think that they're comfortable with this being a break that they can live with. I saw Niels post something after he lost, saying he loves the new break format. Congratulations on that. So if you get the players buy-in, then you can say, okay, this is the way we're going to go for a while. I like it. I mean, the one on the side is, uh, you know, everyone knew that was going to be the play for a lot of players, but it still left a lot of racks that were not easily negotiated. And if the one doesn't go in the side, then it's a whole shit show of balls all over the place. I mean, the cue ball is always down at the bottom
That's
of the
right.
table, and there's a lot of traffic. And now they're going to get into the hand racking as it gets into these TV matches too. So we'll see what kind of impact that has
It will.
on
It will, Mike.
consistency of the break. So I think that the players overall are going to are going to say, okay, we can live with this. This is a little more what we're thinking of. So yeah, I think it's been pretty good, and it seems like the events run really well this week. I haven't seen uh, any glitches or read about or heard any really glitches in the way it went. So I think Matrim's getting their hands around, you know, 256 player tournaments and starting to dial it in, starting to hit a rhythm with how these things run. So that's good news for the future.
I know they've mentioned the word trialing before as it pertains to this break, and I got to tell you, Mike, I'm with you. I'm enjoying it. I make no bones about it. I enjoy the tactical battle of pool. I'm a
Yeah,
big one pocket fan. The safety play, the jumping, the two rail kicks. Um, I I absolutely appreciate every one of those spots, and I love how it's not these tic tac toe runouts. I remember
no,
hearing an interview with Emily when this was first being discussed and tossed around, and she said something to the effect of, we want to have the best, like the most truest champion that we can, and not just these, cupcakes that can be laid
run
out for
out
these
kings.
guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, exactly. And I think they're getting it here, Mike. I think they really are getting it here. I don't know if this is where they're going to end up settling at, but I'm loving it so far. The only thing, and this is the only thing that I can go and say when it comes to any kind of knock on the event up until this point, has just been the shot clock. And that's for me with some of these
Yeah.
players that can be a bit tough with the way that they can go and look over a shot or pump fake over and
Well,
over and over
it's
again.
allowed all the players to take their time. I mean, players who
Right.
usually shoot pretty fast, the Joshes and the Jasons. There have been plenty of times where they've studied the table, taking advantage of the opportunity that they have. I think that the shot clock is just a matter of, at this point, it seems like it's a matter of logistics as much as anything. Who you're going to have counting down, who you're going to have calling fouls, who you're going to, you have to have someone at every table, all that kind of stuff. So, you can have extensions. Now you need a lot more manpower to do that. So,
I see that.
I think that, I don't think too many matches ran really long. I'm assuming that the shot clock and the tougher break is why they went to a race to 8 on the loser side until it got down to that qualification round on the loser side. Then it went
Which
back up to
I
9.
like that, by the way.
Yeah,
Let
and
them play some pool.
so I think that I haven't heard any huge complaints so far about the shot clock from players saying this guy was brutal or this match took 3 hours or anything like that. So um, maybe there were, I didn't see them, but no complaints from me at this point.
You're gonna have it's only natural to be able to study more and be more deliberate because it's not the same layouts you've been used to seeing for the last 15 years playing pool, or the way you practiced
Right.
your whole life growing up until this point, because the format is so different and the randomness is there, right? So I can understand that, and I only say it just like whenever I say it with a grain of salt because it hasn't been too over the top for me. But there's just a couple of times in Iraq, and I get it when it gets a little thick around that 6-6 mark, and whether you're going to 8
Yeah.
or you're going to 9, I mean it really
You'll
is going to
take
get
that extra
crucial,
10, 20 seconds or 30
right?
seconds if you need it. Yeah.
Because here's the thing, Mike, and this is what I really believe. The players don't have that security blanket in their back pocket that, man, if I can just get a good breakdown, I'll be all right. Because
Right.
I think they really don't know what the hell they're going to go and get. I think they're hoping
Right.
for the one, but after that, it's kind of the Wild West
It
because
is.
there's no, I don't know where this ball's going to dress up, or that ball's going to go and dress up, or
And
I'm
who
really
knows
not
where
going
the
to
cue
be
ball is going to end up. I mean, the cue
right
ball is
because
all over the damn
you're
place.
swinging back and forth,
Yeah, it's
so
bumping into other balls. It's doing whatever. So I think that they're really getting pretty close here.
yes, sir.
And I did say, see someone even commented that last game of the Shane Wojcik match was one of the best matches that they've seen, in the event. And I agree. I loved watching that. I loved watching that little cat and mouse that they had to get into because
Love
of
it.
the wreck. It was a tough fight. I mean, Shane had ball in hand, and usually that's just throw them in, but
Curtains.
it was still a lot of negotiating through that wreck. So it's I think it's been really good.
Yeah, it has not lacked suspense. We saw from the very beginning of day one more of the vogue names that were dropping like flies. I don't want to say dropping like flies, but got sent to the one loss side early on that you wouldn't
Yeah,
necessarily expect. Victor for me was one of these players who I think is an elite 9 ball player, but
yep.
he struggled. Even though there was half the country of Poland, left in the final
Well, that's
in the
that's an
final
amazing
32.
thing. I mean,
Yeah,
Victor didn't even make the final 64, right?
no,
And
no,
still they had, I don't know what was it, 9 players in 64. They had 6 players in the final 32, and now there's 4 Polish players in the final 16. That's a quarter of the field. It's from Poland. I mean,
Team Poland versus Team Spain, Mike. Like a 6-on-6,
six
five
on six.
males.
I'm going with Poland.
Okay, what about like a 5-on-5?
4-on-4.
Four males, one female. Team Poland,
I wouldn't
team
know a
team
female
Spain.
Spanish player from a pole
Matas
dancer, so I don't know
Matas
what.
plays great. She went deep in a
I
couple
don't
of
I don't
Predator
know
events.
many of the women players, Polish players, but I would say, I would have the guy. It would have to be, to me, the guys. I would say at 4-4,
4-4.
it's a probably slightly favors Spain. 5 or 6 man teams. I'm
You
going
think it
Poland.
favors Spain?
I don't know. I mean, well, if you said who was before this tournament, who was going to be the last remaining Spanish player, who would it have been?
Well,
I'll tell you who it wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been Camino.
look at the two Spanish players who were there left, and look at the two who have been monsters all year long, wreaking
Yeah,
havoc over in Europe, who aren't there
yeah,
anymore. After Baysar knocks off FSR, and then you got David Alcade, who made an earlier exit.
right.
Um, I don't know. I mean, for me, you obviously got Conrad and you got Victor. You also
Yeah,
have
Misko,
Misko, of course. Number 4, I guess Wojciech, right
which,
now.
yeah,
I mean,
world handball
he's
champion.
the
I think
reigning
I'd
world
take him
tennis
on
ball
my team.
champion. I
Yeah,
tell you what, though, these young guns from Spain are coming with it, to go
yeah.
and they've seemed to kind of be creeping up, similar in the sense of what,
FSR did.
yeah, it seems like it
Yeah,
might. I mean,
yeah,
Francisco had a lot more consistency leading up
yeah,
to all the successes um, that he's had over the last 12 months or so. But I tell you what, man, like I've been watching Jonas a lot. Delgado, I haven't seen a whole lot of his game, but I've seen his name go and pop up on events, and slowly but
yeah,
surely he's making it deeper and deeper and deeper. And in this event, with this amount of killers, it's hats off to him. But I tell you what, I think it'd be an interesting matchup, like Poland versus Spain. And I know
yeah.
there's gonna be a World Games coming up, right? A team event coming up. So
Right.
I'm gonna be keeping an eye on those two without a
Yeah.
doubt.
How big are the teams going to be for that?
Actually, I think it's only gonna be 3. I think
3.
it's
Yeah,
gonna be yeah. I think it's gonna
yeah,
be 2 males and one female. So you gotta
yeah,
imagine it'll be David, Francisco, and then Matas, and then for Poland, it's tough. I mean, you could pick any one of those. You could pick like
yeah,
5 or 6 guys deep to go and
yeah,
represent for them.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
they're really good. I mean, and this has been coming for 3-4 years, where you just look at Poland, you're like, man, these guys are always, they get 5 or 6 in the top 16 every Euro Tour event. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Right.
And in these international events, there's always a couple of them going deep. So it's time to start seeing these guys in the final matches, in the semis, and the finals. It's just time. These guys are too good.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, they're coming and they're showing they're having successes this year. We've seen, like I mentioned, Victor have some successes. Wojciech, obviously the world reigning 10-ball champion, and he gave Shane everything Shane can go and handle, and even showing some heart there at the end. I know he didn't go
Yeah,
and get through, but to go and put up that kind of fight
yeah,
is something to go and be proud of as well. But there were some Americans, Mike, who were also there aside from Shane, who made a little bit of a wave, and the last two aside from Shane went out today, and Tyler and Oscar. And I just want to ask you, what's your thoughts on how the red, white, and blue did this event, Mike?
not as well. I mean, I wasn't expecting a lot of final 8 guys, but I was really hoping we'd get two. That one of these other guys would hit 16. Oscar hit 32. It was unfortunate that Oscar played Tyler first thing, today, that they face each other in the round of 32. Wasn't, you know, wasn't a match that they're going to make any instructional videos out of. But but sometimes it is a slog fest. Sometimes you just have to kind of fight your way through when you're not playing your best. And they both had chances. Hats off to Oscar for pulling through. And then Oscar against Josh, that's a tall order. I think that I would have been okay with him losing had he played better. I think he played really good in spurts, but he missed some shots that he's just not supposed to miss, and you just can't miss against Josh and hope to get out of the match. And he was there. He was there at 5-5, 6-6. Should have been up 7-6.
He should have been up
You
7-5.
know,
Mike is what he
yeah.
should have been up
So
because he had chances
just
both those games, back to back
yeah,
games where he left up balls.
yeah. So those were that made it a little bit tougher for me. Um, I think, though, that said, if Oscar shows the same kind of form and gets to the final 32, final 16 at the U.S. Open, then he's a slam dunk for Mosconi. I think. I don't see how you keep him out at that point because these are big international fields, and no matter what your draw was, it's tough to get to the final 16. So hats off to O for getting there, and I'm sure he's disappointed in the way he played against Josh as well. Uh, I was hoping to get a little bit more out of, um, something to get at least 4 or 5 guys in the final 64. And we only ended up with 3. So
Yeah, it
that was a
was
little bit tough.
it was a brutal draw to have those two Americans face each other right away. Um, that
Oh, and I
Tyler match,
apologize. I said that Oscar finished final 16. He was 32.
did you?
And
Okay.
yeah. Obviously, he's 32. So still, still a decent finish for him. But I was hoping to get more out of Shane Wolford. I was hoping, someone
Agreed.
else might, sneak in a nice little performance, Nick DeLeon, someone like that, just to kind of, um, get some good experience under this kind of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely made him uncomfortable because of the rule changes, and you can see that in their finishes. Um, and that's you kind of get you kind of take that with a grain of salt. You kind of get a bit of a free pass with it because okay, it's a new format, so that's understandable. That matchup between Tyler and Oscar, though, yeah, I tell you what, Tyler showed at spots in this event where he was playing really good, and
Yeah,
he was breaking the balls really well. He was really fluid. His cue action was great. And then something happens, Mike, when he gets ahead, and it's time to get across the finish line, where I don't know what it is, but you know you got to be able to close like the rest of these big boys can go and
yeah,
close.
yeah.
Like it's great. We talked about Tyler being up against Filler at the World Games, whatever he was up like 8-4, something like that, going to nine, I
8-5,
think.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
8-5,
8-5.
yeah,
But you got to be able to finish.
yeah,
That's what separates these like different tiers of players for my money. Um, Oscar going and beating Tyler, great. I like Tyler on paper. I'm sorry, I like Oscar on paper in that matchup anyway. And with Oscar against Filler, I watched every bit of that match at the U.S. International last year, where Oscar gave Josh all that he could handle. When you talk about closing, Oscar had Josh up really big, and a ball that hung up, and then Josh does what Josh does, and the rest
right,
is kind of history. And it's similar here. There was a few balls that Oscar should have been able to put away, and would have, could have, should have, right? Because it would have turned the whole match on its head. And even though it was compelling during times, you just can't make those kind of mistakes because you know what Josh is going to do with 4 balls
yeah,
left on the table and a ball hanging in the hole to go and start the rack with, right? But I know Oscar personally, and I'm not here to make excuses for him, but I know he's got businesses, he's got young kids, and Pool's kind of it's the practice hasn't necessarily been there because of everything he's had going on. We just got done with BEF. He had another BEF event right afterwards, then putting on this other event, raising a family, businesses, and so on. But I tell you, if this guy went and played and
okay,
practiced the same way that the rest of these guys are playing,
yeah.
watch out because
Well,
I'm
and
telling you, it's coming.
I love Oscar as much, if not more, than any American player. But I'll play the devil's advocate on that, and
Okay,
I'm saying if you want to be the top, if you want to be a Mosconi Cup player, then you make that commitment, or you
that's
don't.
fair.
And if I'm a coach, I want to see that commitment. And yeah, I mean he's got to make a living. He's got to feed a family. He's got to do all that stuff. But um, that should never uh, give you a free pass on having to produce in all these events at a level that gets you to, you know, a World Championship 16 or Mosconi Cup or something like that. You know, I,
Yeah, but I
I
guess it's more along the line of just trying to take positives out of the event, right? And for certain
yeah,
players, whether we bring up like Wojciech showing hard against Shane, or right along the same line, Mike is where I'm getting at with it. And you know, and if we're just talking just purely performance when it comes to Americans, Oscars this year has been the second best American player
yeah,
outside of
he has.
anyone. and
Yes,
that's me keeping all that bullshit out the window when it comes to
right,
like life, right? So, but if you just
right.
talk about just performance based, Oscar's been the second best American on paper
Okay.
throughout the entire year.
And the thing is, because he can't commit to it like you would want them to, it's very easy to say, just think how good he'd be if he played all the time. Well, but he's not. So this is the level. Is this the level you're going to get? Is this as good as you're going to get from him?
I don't
And
think
that's
so,
something
and
you'd
I
always have. That's something you'd always have to think about. Something you'd always have to have in the back of your mind, right?
I think that's fair to go and bring up, but just knowing him the way that I do, I think that when I think that when the time comes, like if let's say, let's I'm not saying he's getting picked from Moscone, but if Oscar were to go and be picked from Moscone, you'd bet your ass he'd be preparing like 8 to 10 hours a day plus for weeks leading up to it, just like any of these other guys, and would put in the work and the effort and commitment. I can guarantee you that, and he's got a lot of people rooting for him,
Yeah,
and
100%.
I think that I think that um, with all things considered, making it to the final 32 of of this event was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
We all know Shane is the cream of the crop when it comes to Americans, right? Like he's finally got his world championship. I think the only thing he's really chasing at this point is going to be his sixth U.S. Open. But he's the main guy on deck. He It's tough when all of your teammates kind of get picked off one by one throughout the 256 player field.
well, yeah. I mean, and as disappointing as anything was Sky. I mean, he was he lost to that young kid when he had a lead. It just
Who was the kid? The Kuwaiti, the Saudi
yeah,
Arabian.
Saudi Arabia
Hey,
kid.
that kid can play though, Mike. I remember
Well,
see,
of course,
I,
there's a
I
lot of
I don't
guys in
remember
this
I
field to
don't
play, but
remember
if
what
you're
event it was, but we saw him like earlier this year. The
yeah,
kid's like between 14 to 16, built like
14, I think he
Federer.
is.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
he's just, I mean, the kid can play some really good pool.
he played great to get into the 64. He's did he win it? Did he win at 64 and lose in the round of 32? This where was he at? But I mean, still, if you're the U.S. and you've got Sky Woodward out there, you want to win those matches. So I was disappointed. I'm sure Sky's disappointed in his performance there. Um, just you look at the best players in the U.S. and it's all this. Boy, if they played all the time, they'd be great. If Justin Bergman played in real tournaments, he'd be great. If Billy Thorpe went and played in the European Open, maybe he'd finish someplace. I mean, who knows? We have these players who I don't know. It just seems like we're kind of half in the game and half not.
I can't I can't necessarily argue with that. But come this December, they're gonna have to put out five guys to go and do it. And what I would want are five guys who are fighters.
Yep.
Even though it may not always be the prettiest at times. And listen, I've seen plenty of Europeans that may go and have monster tournament years that when the pressure and the bright lights turn on, they can go and shrink a little bit too, Mike, on that matchroom stage.
Yeah, of
They
course.
can go and fold like a lawn
2018
chair.
and 2019. I mean, everybody, we got guys on the comments here talking about, we got zero chances, less than zero chances. We had zero chances in 18. We had zero chances in 19.
They were 3-1 on the
So
money to go
yeah,
and
so you just
and
go out
lose.
there, you put five guys out there. It's a race to five. You roll the dice and you go. So they can win any year, but you like to see them come in with some guys who are playing good pool. So
Yeah, I mean, Sky's gonna be picked. Shane's an automatic to be announced here
yeah,
pretty soon. If he's not already, I don't even know. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm a bit biased, and I make no bones about it when it comes to this particular topic. That fifth spot for me is gonna be really interesting because I don't know who the hell you put there right now. Although I'm assuming it's gonna be Shane Wolford. Uh, but it's not about how you start a year, Mike. It's about how you finish.
yep.
You know, so you're gonna have to make sure you get across the finish line, at least showing that you're trending the right way.
I want to see a
When it,
couple guys do well at the U.S. Open. I want to see a couple guys do well at the International Open, even though the team probably be picked by then. You want to see these guys. If you made the team, I want to see you do well at the International Open after the U.S. Open. So those are going to be big events for me on how these players are trending going into the Mosconi Cup. So, but it's going to be it's going to be a roll of the dice. I mean, you've got 3 automatic picks, right? So Shane's an automatic number 1, right?
Oh, isn't it
Oscar's
two? Isn't it 2 and 3?
2 wild cards,
2 wild cards, and then no. Two.
3 by points,
Is it 3 by points?
3 by
Okay.
points, 2 wild cards. So, so you've got a third who's going to be automatic, and that third automatic right now, who I mean, you've got I don't even
Sky.
know. Well, um, Sky right
I
now isn't even an automatic, right? So if someone has a good tournament in the U.S. Open, that upsets the apple cart. I'd love to see someone do it. I'd love to see someone throw a wrench in everything by finishing the top 8 and getting that money
Now,
and getting
wouldn't
those
that be
points.
interesting, Mike? If some guy comes out of nowhere and just steals a Mosconi Cup spot by getting that deep in a major like that.
I wouldn't consider it stealing. All these players had all year to build up a little bit of a cushion, and they're not getting it done.
Well, that
Third place is $5,000 or something like that. I mean, come on.
no, that's fair, and I can see it for sure. Um, I mean,
I
the
mean,
drama's not left.
it's gonna be fun because there's gonna be so much speculation. I mean,
Look, I don't.
could you pick Earl? Could you pick Tony Chohan? Could you pick, someone out there like
Oh,
that? Could
let
you
my
pick?
man Tony go out there and with his he wouldn't he'll take a 1 by 1 case. He don't need a jump cue. He doesn't need a break cue. He'll
Are
go
they
out
gonna
there
let
with
him
his
play with
with
those long shorts though?
he'll go out there with his J's on and his satin Southwest. And I tell you what, he'll put them all in jail the entire time that he's
I mean,
playing
it would
nine
be
ball
fun to
pool.
watch. And if you're Jeremy, you might take a flyer with at least one guy this year. Take a total flyer. What the hell you got to lose?
Well, I mean that's true, Mike. But it's if you're Jeremy though, right? You want to try to have at least this. I mean, all you want to
Well,
try to
yeah,
at
you're
least
not
have the
going to pick
best.
someone who just picked up a cue, but I mean, to me, Tony Choyan would be a flyer. Would I take a flyer with him as my 5th guy? I wouldn't argue with Jeremy if he told me he was going to do that. Earl would be a
Let's
little
say
bit tough.
Tony. Let's say Tony over Earl.
100%. Earl last year was
Tony.
playing a lot. Yeah, Earl last year was playing a lot and was committed to it. This year I've seen him in a couple of exhibitions, and that's been about it. I don't think that he's the pick this year. If I had to take a flyer on one of those 2, I would take it on Tony. What would you do?
I don't know. I don't know who this Mike Panozzo is today because I wasn't expecting this kind of this kind of curveball.
Hey, it's a
Um,
Friday. I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah.
got
Why
happy
not,
hour
right?
on. I got
Why
happy
not?
hour on the
It's
brain.
5 o'clock somewhere, right, Mike? That's a really good question. I agree with you though. Earl was playing a lot last year, and although it made as much sense for the hype factor as it did anything else, Earl was still playing really good 9 ball pool last
He,
year. He
he was
just
playing good
was.
last year, and it was announced early enough where the hype factor got him motivated. He was
Right.
charged up. Now you go into like September or October, and all of a sudden you're going to pick Earl. That to me is just that's too out there.
I think I'm with you though. I think like if I'm gonna go and throw someone in the mix, why not Tony? Tony can go
Well,
and fire him in with anyone. I like his break. I like his knowledge. I love his
he's not
I
going to be
love his
intimidated by
safety play.
anybody.
Nah, hell no. Tony won't even think
So
twice
so
about
if you're
anyone.
looking,
Not a
if
Josh, not a Jason, not
right,
anything.
if you're looking at a first timer, where that's what the captains always talk about. You don't want more than one first timer on your team because it's too much pressure. Okay, so if you're picking one first timer, you taking Tony Chohan or Shane Wolford. Who's going to handle the heat better? So it's
Yeah,
it
but what does
depends on
that
how
say
you
to a
look at it.
player like Shane Wolford though? Like, work your ass off all year, the last 2 years, and you go to all these events. What like how do you go and sell that to a kid like that?
You tell them you got another year of seasoning, just like they told Chris Robinson a couple of years ago before they picked him for the first time. It's like, okay, you need another year in you, okay, and I want to see you if you can do better next year. Then you're good. I still think that would keep someone like Shane motivated, but I understand what you're talking about because the same argument I've used on what are you going to tell Victor if you go ahead and pick Federer when he hasn't played all year. So it's a tough situation for a coach. And a captain. And Jeremy's going to have a lot of tough decisions this year because it's after 1 and 2, it's all over the board. It's all over the board. There's about 7 guys for those last 3 spots that I wouldn't be surprised by at all.
I'll tell you what, that European fifth spot is going to be pretty interesting too, because that kid Federer, that young Russian, he's getting better by the day, Mike, and he's
Yeah,
looking
no,
more dangerous every time that I see him go and play. His
yeah,
skills are sharpening across the board, and I
yeah.
get it. I know what you're gonna say,
No, no, no. I'm
but
not going to say it anymore. I'm. If I'm Alex Lely, I'm taking Federer, 100%.
yeah,
I understand what other players might think, but Alex is a practical guy, and he's going to look and say, "This is the best player in the world." I'm not passing on him because and he didn't have a choice this year. He didn't just like go play a bunch of bar table terms because he wanted to make money. He didn't have a choice. So yes, I'm taking Federer. Um, so there's still one pick on Team Europe that makes even more interesting because obviously he's in there now, and you've got Jason and Josh and you know uh, FSR looks like he's going to be a pretty good lock for a points
Albin,
spot, right? So
Maurice is
now,
gonna be on. Maurice is gonna make Team Europe. You can take that
okay,
to the bank.
so then your fifth guy you would assume would be Albin, right?
Has to be Albin. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
why? I mean, so you got Josh, Jason, Albin, Francisco,
and Federer.
Federer. I I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna argue against taking Federer. I'm not. I think the kid
No,
deserves it. I think I think that if anybody thinks, if any one of those guys who feel shorted by that choice, if it were to happen, feel shorted by it, go play Federer. And I don't mean
yeah,
race to 100. Go play him any format, any game, any which way you want, and go see if you're the better player than
and
Federer. That's
now
what I would go and say.
I'll throw it. That team is like the 27 Yankees, right?
This whole show just took a turn on a like tangent
Well,
than
you
what I
didn't have
thought was gonna go and happen.
a
I love it
script.
though. Yeah,
You
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have a
I love
script.
it.
So I'll throw another fly. That team that you just mentioned for Team Europe is like the 27 Yankees. So like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. It's the whole lineup. But you're going to be in Vegas, and to me, Federer is still a first-time player
He's still a
for
rookie,
Moscone Cup.
without a
Still a
doubt.
rookie in Moscone Cup. FSR is a rookie in Moscone Cup. If the U.S. fans want to try to get in somebody's head, those are the two guys I would pick before I got out there. I would try to get in their head from day one and see if you
See,
can't spook them.
but Federer's got a lot of fans here in the U.S. That's the difference. And I
Not at the
know,
Moscone Cup, he's going to.
I know.
Not at the
Listen,
Moscone Cup. It's not. He's not going to have any
no
fans.
man, everyone loves that kid, Mike. I'm telling you, they ain't gonna go and needle him like they would Jason. Plus, he's not gonna be on there standing on a damn chair like Josh is. They're not gonna go and get under him like that. I don't think so. I would love to go and see it if it did though, and I'm hoping it does. Um,
Well, I mean, those are. I mean, they are going to be both
well, you
rookies
got to go and
playing in
rattle 'em.
Vegas,
Yeah.
and you do. No doubt about it. If you want a chance, you got to get a couple of those guys on Team Europe playing subpar, right? And so I think you go after the first timers. You go after them hard.
I've seen Francisco go and take down champion after champion in all his successes this year. People forget at Derby City, he's the only one to give Josh, I think, his two losses
Yeah,
that entire event. He's had a lot of history with Josh since then. And I've been watching Francisco and been saying for the last few years that I think he's the best Spaniard. And this was in the midst of David winning World Pull Master titles. I was still saying those same things, and I believe it then, and I believe it now. And I think that with that comes like this, you kind of get toughened up a little bit. Now I know you cannot go like winning a Euro tour with 13 people in the crowd is not the same thing, and I get it. But I think that when it comes to just if you can compartmentalize a little bit, right, and if you can go and just play your game, and at the end of it, he's going to have to his game to fall back on. I don't think that I think playing all those Europeans he's beaten up until this point is going to make him just that much more battle ready when it comes to playing these Americans, which after Shane may be kind of, you know, a peg down than what he's used to playing against, Mike. No
yeah.
disrespect.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, no, and nobody's going to argue with you. These guys, if they come in and play the way they can play, they're going to be fine. I mean, FSR and Federer, I don't
Yeah,
care
and
if
for
they're
and
rookies. I don't care if they've never played on TV in their lives. They got the games to win. So, but the Moscone Cup's a different animal, and that arena is a different animal, and it's not in Europe this year. It's in the U.S. So their first taste of it's going to be, you know, every American except the Sword Brothers rooting against Federer. So, that's
see, I don't think so. Federer's
I'll
got a
tell
lot
you,
of fans here in the U.S. He does. I've seen him all
I'm
over the place.
I'm one of them.
He's traveled the U.S. more than a lot of American players have this year, Mike. Let's just be realistic.
I'm a Federer fan, but when he goes out there and he's playing Tony
We
Chohan
know it's.
in singles on day two, I'm not yelling "Go
Oh, let
Federer."
me tell
Not
you.
going to happen.
Whatever that money line is on Tony beating Federer and on day two, I'm I may go and take a swing on my man Tony if he gets in that spot. He'll have the game tight jersey on and everything, and
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
love every second of it. No, I
But
listen. I'm
if you could shake them up a little bit on that first day, it can work in your favor. And just looking at ways that the U.S. can stay in a match like this.
they can't get too much worse. So what they have to go and do something
It's
to make it more not just respectable but exciting and
they
compelling and
got they've got no
competitive, right?
pressure on them. They've got no pressure on them. They're going to be playing at home, and if they can put a little bit of
You think
pressure on guys who have,
I don't know about no pressure, Mike. I mean, you're
well, there's
back
always
home now,
pressure. There's always pressure in
and
Moscone Cup,
it's an
but
open
nobody's
season now.
expecting. It's always easier to play when no one's expecting you to do anything but drive balls into the rail.
Well,
Got to be.
let's go and poll 100 of those American fans going to the Moscone Cup, and let's see if they think there's expectations this year or not. Because I think they
Well, let's
believe in
poll the
miracles
American fans and
after
find out how
18.
many of them are going to go root for Federer in a match against an American player. Because then I'll stop them at the door.
You don't think they'd be rooting for Federer against Tony? Because I think they might. Although Tony's got a lot of fans too, though. Don't get me wrong. Anyway, let's transition back to the European Open. It's coming up, and
Oh yeah,
tomorrow's going
the
to be
European
yeah,
Open.
right. So no big deal.
A little bit of a tangent.
Yeah,
A little bit
a
of a
little bit, Mike,
tangent,
but
but
it's a
what
lot
the
of fun
hell?
though.
It's
And
like I said,
we
it's
haven't been on in a
Friday.
while, so we got
My
to go and talk
glasses in the
shop a little bit.
freezer. Yeah.
Let's start up top, Mike. Big matchup for me. People may go and think it's a walkover by Shane. I can
Oh
guarantee you it is not,
no.
and it is far from it. You want to talk about a guy who's coming? Sanjin reminds me of what I thought of Grabe a couple of years ago, who was next on that list of always being that first guy out for the Europeans. Sanjin's coming, and Sanjin's coming for everybody's spot. Sanjin is that kind of talent, and he's got Shane on deck to make it into the final eight starting tomorrow, Mike.
Yeah, no, I think this matchup is it's to me it's pretty close to even. I know who Shane is, but Sanjin I love his game. I like him more. You compared him a little bit to Dennis Grave a couple of years ago. I think he's a better player, and I think
Well,
he's
I
got
meant
that.
just as
I
far
think
as
he's
like
got that
coming.
attitude that's a little kind of Joshish. He's cocky, he's in your face. He wants to win. So, um, you know, he's he's shown a penchant for not being able to close, obviously, in a couple of big matches in the last couple of years. So, we're hoping that Shane can stay ahead of him, or at least keep it so close that if it gets tight, then um, you know Sanjin might do what he's done a couple of times in the past. Now, your daughter, I want to know right now. Tony's playing Federer. Who are you rooting for?
Let me take you off mute. She's probably got a better chance at saying Federer with her mumbled English than she does saying Tony at this point in her life. Um, no, I think you're 100% right. I like Sanjin's confidence, but I think he backs it up with the game, and a game that is coming for all those Europeans because he's next on deck. We saw him give Filler all that he can handle during the World Games,
Yeah,
and it wasn't just the fluke, Mike. He should have won the
nine
European
ball.
Championship when it came to nine ball, but he let Filler hang up a ball, and that was all that it wrote when it came to Josh. He won the European 10 ball championship thereafter. He's showing consistency. He's showing form. He's showing that he has the ability to go and compete with anyone on the world stage. I don't think that like I didn't see Shane have a whole lot of consistency with the break. I don't think anyone has, right? But
Yeah,
if you're gonna go just on a tactical battle, I'm gonna give the edge to Shane. But Sanjay can go and hang in there with anybody on earth.
yeah,
I don't
yeah. No,
American,
it's gonna be
big
a
name, little
close.
name, anyone name.
yeah, it's going to be a close match, and I shouldn't have said it. It's almost even. It's not, but I just won't be
Well, it's not even. I
surprised.
mean, Shane
It's
probably
not
needs to
even.
give
It's
him.
not even on a betting standpoint for sure. But I like this kid's chances of pushing this match deep.
Okay, so let's say I think in a race to 10, just from a name standpoint, Shane's going to be probably a 2 game favorite.
Yeah,
You take
that's about
you
right.
and probably 2 as a push. So if Sanjin gets to 8, it's a push. Are you taking the 2 or are you laying the 2?
I'm taking the two.
I would take the 2 as well. Yeah, I mean keeping Sanjin at 7 is going to be tough, and I'm thinking that
It
I got a real
is.
good chance to go and get to 8. But we've seen Shane go deep in a lot of events this year. Of course, you saw him win the world championship, but he's got to go and continue that run, right?
Yeah.
And Sanjin, I like Wojciech. I know he's a world 10 ball champion. I like Sanjin a little better, and I think this is going to be a
Yeah.
much tougher test, and not just because it's in the next round.
Well, I just and the break, is going to make Shane has to come into these events now. If this is the break going forward, he's got to come in knowing that it's not going to be fives and sixes. So he's
Yeah,
going to
but
have
that's
to.
what he thrives off of, though, Mike. Like that's what Shane can always go and have in his
Right,
back pocket is that
right.
he can go and hit you with a 5 pack or a 4 pack whenever he wants.
But it's a little tougher with this break now. So he's got to expect that these matches are going to stay a little bit tighter, and he's going to have to be smart with his play. And I think he can. I think he can. You're right. If it comes to a grinded out type of thing, I think he's got a better shot than Sanjin in this because he knows all the shots and he knows how to make all the shots, and so so he'll take. You know, I'm confident he's going to win, but I know Sanjin's going to give him a shot.
It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough without a doubt. You gotta like Shane, and of course, everyone here in the U.S. is gonna go and love Shane. But I tell you what, it's gonna be a dogfight. Come here, babe. Sorry, my daughter's crying over here. Uh, And next one on deck is going to be Jonas against Nagaki. Jonas is one of these young Spanish players who I think is up and coming as well. Not to the level of Sanjin, but he's coming for you, Mike. And Nagaki, he's a seasoned Polish player, and I think it's going to be a hell of a battle as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a close one. Nice tight battle. I wouldn't know how to even handicap that one. Uh, I haven't seen Jonas play a lot, so yeah, one of them's going to get to the final eight. So good for them for where they're at.
I'm gonna take a flyer, and it'll probably be I like Jonas coming out of that one, Mike, and the one after that, I'm gonna go with Regli. I think that kid's showing a lot of promise this whole year, and is another one of these
Yeah,
guys who has had a lot of consistency. Maybe a bit under the radar when it comes to Europeans, and rightfully so. But I do like his matchup up against Delgado, even though I think he's going the right direction as well.
yeah. No, I like Regley in this as well. From what I've seen him play this year, he seems to be playing these bigger matches with a little more confidence, with a lot of confidence. So yeah, he's good. He's done well to get to this 16 as well.
Who do you like out of Team Poland after that, Mike?
I'm going Misko. It's time for the butcher to make the to get into that final eight, final four.
Well, you want to talk about hitting on all cylinders. We saw him take down some big names of the World Pool Masters and names that maybe on paper he wasn't supposed to go and take down. I don't. I'm with you. I like him in the next round or after. I think he'll be in the final four um, after tomorrow's all said and done. Although now I probably just jinxed him and probably be out 10-2 after that. um,
Yeah, true.
But I do.
Yeah,
I like him in that matchup. But the next one, Mike, is the one that I think everyone's got their eye on. It's going to be early in the morning. I think 5 a.m. Don't hold me to that, but I believe it'll be 5 a.m. Central, and that's Jason versus Josh.
yeah. Geez. Heavyweight. You know, as much firepower as you can put into one match, and Jason hasn't been to Jason we know in the past year or so. So I think tomorrow he's looking at this as a chance to really prove himself. I think he's really going to be dialed in and really be motivated. And you're going to have to be if you're going to beat Josh because he's just so good these days that everything's got to go in your favor to beat him. And it can certainly happen for Jason for sure. But yeah, going to be a heavyweight bout for sure.
Josh has had Jason's number when they've gone and matched up deep in
Yep.
these matchroom events. I remember seeing it. Well, this wasn't a matchroom event, but I think it was the World 10 Ball a couple of years ago where they got matched up in the elimination round. I remember the first U.S. Open at Mandalay.
Yep.
Why say if I say first U.S. Open, I mean first U.S. Open that
The
matchroom
matchroom.
had
Yeah.
at,
Yeah.
at Mandalay Bay. They got
Ran him
matched
over.
up, ran him over, Mike. I know
Yeah.
Jason seems to be in that eagle eye mode where he's got that crazy look in his eye and he's full steam ahead and has a lot of focus. Whereas Josh, I mean, he's winning everything, so it's so hard to go and say maybe he's not as dialed in, right? But maybe just not the same Josh as we've seen whenever he's winning a few events. But I know time and time again when guys go and steal one here or steal one there, because I think he stole one against Kachi, they end up snapping off the event. If anyone's going to go and slow him down, it'll probably be Jason. But
Yeah.
I don't know, Mike. It's gonna be a tall order.
Yeah. We talked about that last time Josh won a tournament. It's like, if he has one of these matches where he just barely scrapes by, where he should have lost,
Well, he should
he's
have lost to
after,
Kachi. I mean, if,
right.
if you go back and watch it, Mike, I don't think you did this morning, but if you go watch back and watch maybe the last like 30 or so minutes, like you'll see Clenny had a lot of chances to put
Yeah.
Josh away.
He
You know,
should have. Josh should have lost to earlier in the tournament against his countryman. So, he gets away with couple. Not get away with them. He
should have
closes. If
lost
he comes
often.
from behind and closes, and someone doesn't put him away, he's usually on cruise after that. So it's going to be a great match. I'm looking forward to it.
I tell you what, Mike, if anyone's gonna go and upset the big boys, I think it's gonna be the big boy right beneath him in Mario. And I say that because I've heard that Mario's break has been pretty solid, and I've heard that he's playing very, very well right now. I mean, obviously he's made it to the final 16, but I've been hearing that he's coming and that he's hungry. And if anyone's got the ability, and I know Basar, he's respectable and I've seen him play very well over the last couple of years, starting with the World Cup of pool. But Mario, man, I got to tell you, he's kind of the underdog. I'm kind of rooting for him, Mike. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's kind of sneaking up. He's a good enough player to be in the final 16, but he's kind of still that sneaky final 16 where you're kind of looking past him, but he's right up there with any of these guys that can make that semifinal for
Well,
sure.
if he can somehow get past Baser, which I know Baser just took down FSR, but if Mario can go and get it to that next round, that's going to be a very intriguing matchup. I would love to take Mario, whoever he faces, whether it's Jason or Josh. Mario's going to be a dog. Whatever that weight is, I'll gladly take Mario up against either one of those two guys. So you guys let me know. Um,
Wow, you're
more
high on
coming.
heat.
I am. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Next on deck, Moore versus Conrad. I mean, flip a coin for me. I saw a lot of
Yeah,
John out there in California and in Sacramento. I saw him go and beat Oscar late into the night. I haven't watched him in this format, but you can tell obviously if he's here, he's got to be hitting the ball very well. He just took down an amazing Greek player in Alex Kazakis, who I think has gotten that monkey off his back as well. So this matchup with Conrad, I think, is going to be pretty telling. I think either way, in that side of the bracket, it's Albans to be had, and I think everyone
yeah,
knows it, Mike.
yeah, no doubt about it. Alden's the favorite in that to reach the final four based on that. Uh, but sentimental, I'm going for John. I'd love to see him really go deep. Semifinals would be cool to see him do that. I just, he's just a good kid. I've always liked him. I've always liked his game. Obviously, with the magazine, we just had him on the last cover for his coming back in the last three,
Oh,
four
that's right,
years and
Mike. Yeah.
changing to a left-hander. So it's a great storyline. Um, you know, just I mean, I just think that he's someone you really like to root for. So yeah, I'll be pulling hard for John.
All right, Mike. So give me your final four. Who do you like coming out of the top? I'll throw the graphic back up while you
Yeah,
do.
let's do
Who,
that.
who do you like coming out of the top? Who do you like coming out of the bottom? And please tell me you're not going to go straight chalk, Mike. Please say it ain't Sopinozo.
Well, I'm going to go with Shane for sure because I think he'll get through Senjin, and I like him in that. Whoever wins that other match, I like his chances. So I'm definitely going to take him there. I'll go ahead and take Misko in the next is my next semifinalist.
Okay.
Uh, I'm going to take. You're going to take Mario, so I won't do that to you. Uh, I'll
What a
go.
nice guy. Someone's got to actually gamble on this panel here, Mike.
Well, yeah, well, yeah. You think? Yeah, I'm going to go Jim Telfer on you and take Josh Filler.
Of
No,
course.
I'll take Jason. I'll take
Taking
Jason, and
Jason.
then the bottom. I'm going to stick with my Canadian buddy.
So you
So
wow,
there's no
wow. So
chalk there. There's no
no,
chalk there. I wiped the slate clean.
wow, wow. Mike stepping out on a limb here. Wow, I can't believe it. Say it ain't so, Pinozo. So you
Well,
think
I
you're gonna?
haven't been right picking chalk, so in the past year, I may as well go off the rails.
Well, it doesn't get much more off the rails than that. That's a pretty ballsy pick there because I think if you're gonna go and rank those four players, I'm not sure where John would be at, but to go and have him be coming out of those four, I think is pretty amazing. Come here, Ray.
He's
I'm
got
gonna
the talent.
go. He no, without a doubt, he's got the talent, and he's in full gear right now. He just got second to Federer out there at the Brendan Crocker Memorial. Just played a real good money match with Oscar, so he's hitting the ball well, right? And
Yeah.
that's what you want going into a big event is just making sure that you're getting in table time, and he's definitely has had that.
Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna go a bit away from chalk completely. I'm going with Sanjin beating Shane up top at the very beginning, and I like him to go and win that next matchup. And I think he'll be in the final four. I'm with you though on the bottom half of that top part. I think Mitsuko is going to be the guy to beat. I like him beating his countrymen, and I like him beating whoever comes out between Regli and Delgado for sure. Mitsuko is just. I think it's time for him to take that next step. I think if
Yeah.
he plays Sanjin or Shane, whoever it may be, I think he's up against it, and I don't think he's looking past Kaplan at all. I don't mean that, disrespectfully when it comes to Kaplan. I just like Fortunsky a little better in those
Yeah.
first two matchups. Uh, but who knows, man? Fortunsky can go and maybe shock the world here a little bit, Mike, because
I'd
we
love to
saw
see
him.
any of these guys shock the world. I'd love to see one of these 16 guys that are like that we're looking at as the bottom 8 of the 16. I'd love to
Yeah.
see one of them snap it off because there's a ton of
What
talent in this 16.
do you really like? Okay, do you think it's Jason, Josh, Albin, Jason, and Shane, and then everyone else?
As
Like
far as who's number
with
five, is there a number
well, like
five?
I mean that in the sense of, do you think the format levels it out more, or do you think that they're still that far above and beyond the rest of the 16 players or the other
I think
whatever it
they're
is, 12
still.
players?
I think they're still that far behind the rest of the players in the 16. I think
I
it's
think
I think any of them can win for sure, but I think that this format and the break format and the way they've got it structured with the seating, all that stuff, I think it's made these guys heavier favorites than they were before.
I love the seating part of it for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think we brought that up at all. Um, yeah, I don't know, Mike. I think when it comes to the bottom, and as much as I do love an underdog story, and I do, it's gonna be tough for Mara to go and get past it. But I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna take Mara to come out of that top half of the bottom, and then at the bottom, I can't pick against Albin. That dude's just a different kind of animal. Like we've gone 58 minutes here, Mike, and haven't even brought up his name once, right? And we've been talking all
yeah,
these storylines of amazing players, or maybe we have
yeah,
during the Mosconi talk a little
yeah.
bit, but uh, Albin's always around at the end, and he's kind of like Josh in that if he's around when it's time, he comes with it. He was down against Max in their matchup. I was able to watch a little
Right,
bit of that. I think Max had chances to go and put him away,
sure did.
similar to what Oscar had to be able to put Filler away, or maybe put Filler in a hole in their matchup, but left a lot on the table there. Um, Coming out of that bottom though, I I don't know that
Yeah,
I
it's
can go and
tough. I
bet
mean,
against.
yeah, you look at those four that he's in with, and he's pretty prohibitive favorite in that final group.
Yeah, I mean, I think against Dennis, he's probably a two-game favorite going to 10. And I haven't seen Dennis hit a ball this entire event, so I don't know how he's breaking, which obviously is going to play a huge factor when it comes to winter break 9 ball. But this event, I think for me, just really levels out the field quite a bit. It's I say that kind of looking foolish because it's still the same old cast of characters that we're seeing tournament after tournament of the big dogs there at the end, Mike, and it's kind of remarkable. Um, but if I'm going to go and take an absolute flyer to go and win it all, I'm going to say Sanjin. But we will be able to come back tomorrow, hopefully, and see
And
how
rewrite
our
our entire script.
yeah. It's gonna be like Jonas versus Regli, and probably who knows Basar versus Dennis Gray. Or look like a bunch of idiots. But I think that's
That's
part
what
of
we
the
do
beauty of
best.
yeah. That's part of the beauty of going out on a limb and making yourself look like an idiot sometimes. So Um,
I really, I really love this final 16. I don't know why it's any different than the other one. I just love the mix that's in there, of young guys and established guys who are trying to break through, and the heavy hitters. And like I said, I look at this 16. I'd love to see someone, a little out of that top 6, 7 top guys go ahead and win the whole thing. I think that would be a ton of fun.
I got to tell you though, real quick, I would love to go and see this same format with all the tactical play with the Asians involved, with the Filipinos and
Oh, of
The
course.
Chinese, because when it comes to tactical play and safety battle and really just being able to finesse it, but play it specifically in two way, I mean, I think it would be amazing pool, Mike. And this event really has for me been phenomenal because I love
Yeah.
all that back and forth. I love how it's not. I love when I turn in whenever I tune in and nothing is expected or given, right? Because
Right.
there's always there seems to be more twists more often than not. And this event really has done it for me. So I'm looking forward to the final 16. We'll come back and we'll see how our picks are doing, right? And
We're not going to remind everybody of my picks tomorrow, are we?
no, 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 of course not. Of course not. No, but you know what? I really am. I'm genuinely excited. There's a lot of pool
Yeah.
left to go and be played. And I tell you
Yeah.
what, as much as I like underdogs, listen, I'm not going to be disappointed if it's all chalk there at the end because there's some potential, even though we got some amazing matchups starting the day tomorrow, there's potential for even better matchups coming for later on in the event. Let's say if we end up with that dream matchup of Josh versus
What
Shane that's been missing the entire time we've been watching.
is there? There wouldn't even really be a chalk Final Four, would there? I mean,
Well,
because that second group,
Josh and
Josh,
Albin, and then Shane.
Alvin, and Shane. Okay, so then that fourth one, who is it? Who would chalk be in that second group? Misco?
I think so. It has to be, yeah.
Yeah,
I
has
mean,
to be
you
right.
like if you're gonna go and tell me, give me one of those four guys that has expectations, Misko's it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I think the other ones are kind of like free rolling. I mean, like they're doing great, and I'm sure the job's not done for them, and whatever other cliche you want to go and say. But like Mitsuko has been there quite a bit, but it's time to keep on going, right?
yeah.
You've taken steps throughout this year, but there is expectations. I feel like, and rightfully so, And I think he can go and do it because, listen, there were times when he played Jason. I remember at the World Pool Masters, that dude looked phenomenal. I mean, he was hitting tough shot after tough shot, and it wasn't like he was hitting tough shots and then fighting the whole rack to get back in line.
Right, right.
It was like he came with a real hard tester to start it, and then like one or two balls in, he's perfect and in
Yeah,
line and
yeah,
out,
yeah, yeah.
and he's doing his job.
Cool,
So,
cool dude too. So yeah, I'd love to see him go. See him win it all. I'd love that.
well, we'll be back tomorrow. I'll try to get on Panozo. I appreciate everyone who's tuned in and who's faded us, talking about pool for the last hour. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll try to do
Perfect.
more of it coming up soon. And again, we appreciate the patience when it comes to all these technical difficulties. It's yeah, it's we're doing our best, but we're having a good time, and I hope it comes through. Really, I do. So, Mike, I appreciate you, buddy, and
Yep.
yeah, see you guys tomorrow.